here. Welcome everybody. Happy Arbor Day Eve. We're getting ready to learn about the Arboretums of Maryland. We're going all over the state. We're going to go visit these wonderful resources and learn about these museums of trees that are waiting for us to discover in person. We have 5 arboretums to share with you tonight, and our first up is Adkins Arboretum over on the eastern shore. And Jenna, you can go ahead and get started. But welcome and thank you all for coming.
Great, thank you. Yes, and thank you for joining us tonight and your interest in the Arboretum. I'm Jenna Tiernan. I have the honor of being the Executive Director of Adkins Arboretum since 2016. And Jenny Houghton, the Assistant Director, will be joining me tonight to share more information about the Arboretum. Of course, we always encourage people to come visit us because that's how you can truly experience it. So short of that, we've pulled together a little story map to show you some fabulous images of the Arboretum that our photographer, we have a staff photographer, Kellen McCluskey, does a beautiful job with. So I am going to share my screen and start the program. Okay. So Adkins Arboretum, we're a native plant arboretum located on the eastern shore of Maryland. Founded in the 1980s, originally intended to be the state arboretum and have collections from all over the state brought and planted. And there was some of that done, but early on, I think it was realized that that wasn't really sustainable. And that instead we would celebrate the local mid-Atlantic coastal plain flora. And that has proved to be just an exceptional thing to do as we learn more and more about the importance of native plants. Leon Andrus was our founder. He provided us with a small endowment to become a nonprofit organization. He had a love for trees. There was a note in his bio that he loved trees more than people. I don't know if that should be out there, but he named the Arboretum after the Adkins family. They were friends of his and they were in this area for a long time. And he felt that was important to have a local family name on the Arboretum. We have a 50-year lease with the state of Maryland. We are 400 acres within the 4,000 acres of Tuckahoe State Park. Today, we operate on funds from memberships, the endowment, plant sales, donations, and we do a lot of grant writing. And we've been very fortunate with our grants. We're one of the few botanical institutions dedicated to the appreciation and stewardship of coastal plain flora. This is our visitor center, a little gnome home. Our collection is more in its natural landscape. So you see an understory, an overstory, ground cover as it would grow naturally, as it does grow naturally. We do have cultivated gardens around our visitor center and our parking lot. This was a big project done, a lot of grant funds into it, and it's really spectacular. And it's called Parking Lot Alive with an exclamation mark, and I think that's a perfect name for it because it certainly has come alive. The Arboretum supports more than 600 species of native flora, and of course that in turn supports many wildlife species. So I've included some beautiful shots of the Arboretum along our trails. We have mossy mulch trails, we have gravel trails, lots of zebra swallowtail because we have a lot of pawpaw in our forest. And of course, pawpaw is the host plant for zebra swallowtail. We also have the native orchid, the lady slipper, pink lady slipper, that is in bloom right now. So you may want to come out. We really try to engage a broad audience and meet them wherever they are with their interest in nature and make them feel comfortable in nature too, so that they can learn. We reach out to folks with programming, with art, guided walks, more shooting star. There's our pawpaw. Here's some of our wildlife that's just fabulous. Frogs are really talking now. Pileated woodpecker, got quite a few. Wood ducks, snakes, lots of turtles sunning. They've come out. More zebra swallowtail. Something unique about us is that we welcome dogs and keep treats on the counter for them too. They can come right through the visitor center, and it's a really wonderful place to walk your dog. We have had guided dog walks. Of course, that was paused during the pandemic, and we'll look at reopening that. We have more than 5 miles of trails, some around meadows, open, sunny, and others in the wood. We are designated an important bird area by Audubon. Lots of birders, lots of bird activities. We have wonderful venues throughout the Arboretum. This is our wetland overlook right outside our visitor center. We have programs out there. We have just, one thing that we did do during the pandemic was get more seating for folks to venture out and gather in small groups. We allow cyclists, of course we have hikers, walkers. This is our meadow platform, which is a new small venue, a little bit like an amphitheater, and it's raised so that you can see above the tall meadow grasses. So it really gives you a neat perspective and has been really popular. And from this angle, you can tell why kids treat it like a pirate ship. So, and this was actually a Leon Andrus event that we had right after it was built, and get an idea of what overlooking a meadow looks like. It's quite spectacular. Our education pavilion hosts youth programs, school groups, summer camps, and seasonal events. Got lots of picnic tables under there. Emily's Play Garden is a very popular site. We've added picnic tables around for families to gather in their pods. Lovely little labyrinth. And of course, stewardship is key to our whole mission. And we're a very small staff, 5 full-time, 2 part-time, and that includes, the staff that maintains the grounds. This is Sylvan Kaufman, our science advisor, Kathy Thornton, our land steward. The DNR Wildlife Heritage has come and burned our meadow for us. Otherwise, we're typically mowing it. It's difficult to get them every year. Of course, we do a lot of work removing the woodies, and we have goats that help us with our invasive plants also. And they bring quite a joy. People, sometimes the first thing they ask are, where are the goats? They want to see the goats. Some weir management on our wetland pond right outside of our visitor center. If you caught that first photo, you actually enter the visitor center over a long bridge. And it's quite the walk. My window looks right out over it, and I see how long it takes people to walk in because there's so much to take in. And I feel very lucky every morning and evening leaving because it's quiet, usually quiet, and I get to see lots of birds and critters and beavers. And these are some of our programs: education, docent-led guided walks. This is Margan Glover, longtime docent. We also have guided tours and self-guided audio tours. This is Tony Cohen. He helped us develop nature's role in the Underground Railroad. And we continue to build on that program and actually have a Network to Freedom grant right now to do some more work filming and virtual access to that tour. And it's coming along quite beautifully. We're going to have a premiere later in the year for that. Botanical arts, we have fabulous teachers, talented students. We Mary and Howard McCoy are our artists in residence and curate our gallery with art every 2 months. We have a rotating show, and
Lower my phone.
every year we have outdoor art installation also. And 2 years ago, this is Liz Donadio, and she is our guest artist in residence. And her solo show will be in November and December of this year. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Jenny pick it up, and she'll pick up with youth programs and events.
Okay, as soon as I get there, here we go. All right, so does this look good? Can everyone see it?
Yeah, it looks good.
Super. So my name is Jenny Houghton. I'm the assistant director at Adkins, and I've had the privilege of working in a beautiful place with beautiful people for almost 15 years. I started out with our youth programs. We welcome about 1,800 students every year. We offer an Acorn Academy nature preschool that meets in the fall and the spring and is funded in part by a PNC Grow Up Great grant. We also have fall and spring homeschool science programs. And we have school field trips for children ages pre-K through high school. Our school field trips are aligned with next generation science standards as well as Maryland environmental literacy standards. You can see the kids are happy to come to us and we're always happy to welcome them. We have 5 weeks of summer camp and our biggest goal is to get kids outside, feet wet and hands dirty. In addition to our youth and adult programs, we have a very solid volunteer program. We have about 120 volunteers and board members. Of these, I'd say 40 to 50 are super active. And we show our appreciation for them with an annual volunteer event. Our primary recruitment tool for our volunteer program is the Maryland Master Naturalist Program. We hold this in conjunction with University of Maryland, and we piloted the Maryland Master Naturalist of the Coastal Plains program back in 2011. And we've been doing it ever since. We enjoy many different events at the Arboretum. Our biggest event is our fall and spring plant sale. We sold over 11,000 native plants in 2020. 2021 is gearing up to be another great year. We've had to make some changes due to the pandemic, but keeping our plants in the nursery and shifting things online has actually benefited the plants themselves. We have a yarn storming event in early spring before the trees bud out with leaves. That's in partnership with the Fiber Arts Center of the Eastern Shore. And it invites people to look at trees in new ways. About 2 years ago, we partnered with Tuckahoe State Park on Who Laid That Egg, which is a wildlife scavenger hunt in the style of The Amazing Race. We had 50 families come in our first year. And in June, we host Forest Music in partnership with the National Music Festival. A different kind of music event is Beer Garden. This takes place in September. We get over 400 people enjoying local bluegrass bands, local food trucks, and local brewers. It is a family-friendly event, and we have root beer in addition to more strong forms of refreshment. It's a great opportunity for us to sell memberships. And the event closest to my heart is Fairy Fest, when we get little ones outside for a full day of fun in October. Our last Fairy Fest had over 700 participants. And really everything that we do, from our adult programs to our youth programs to events like Fairy Fest, is all about inspiring people to get out and enjoy the joys and wonders of the natural world. So before I close out, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. This is such a fun way to celebrate Arbor Day. And I also want to say that I'll be signing out early because I'm preparing my family for an Arbor Day camping trip.
Thanks, Jenny.
And let's see, there you go.
Okay, thank you so much. That was Adkins, and if you haven't been, you need to make sure you have plans to do that. And I saw that there were some questions specific to Adkins in there, in the chat box. And I guess while the other folks are presenting, if Jenna, you could go back through the chat box and maybe you can just type in some of the answers and then folks can look at those answers as well. And then we can also have questions and answers at the end. Sometimes they'll get lost in the chat train. So wonderful. Now we're leaving the Eastern Shore, heading over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, and going Baltimore bound to Clyburn. That's our next stop on the Arboretum train, Arboretums of Maryland train, Clyburn Arboretum. And we have tonight, Patricia's with us. Where is she? Oh, there we go. Unmute.
Ready?
And I can put you on a spotlight. There you go.
Okay, I'll try to start this show. I'm Patricia Foster. I'm the executive director of Clyburn Arboretum Friends, which is the support group who partners with the city of Baltimore in maintaining the park. Without further ado, and if I can do this right, we'll get to my little show here and start. Whoop, come on. Okay. So you probably were startled by the fact that I didn't put the ginkgo as one of my favorite trees. It is all over everything that we do because it is sort of our iconic image. But the Friends group has been around for a long time, and we have partnered with the city for quite a long period of time. It's 200 acres, right smack dab in the heart of the city, surrounded by concrete and traffic and ambulances. I've been to Adkins a number of times. I envy your serenity there. There's a lot of energy and things going on in Baltimore City all the time. The park, we're the only non-athletic fielded park in the city of Baltimore. We have no ball courts, no bike trails, no football fields, no tennis courts, no swimming pools, just 200 acres of tended garden and woodland surrounding it. It's run by the City Department of Recreation and Parks. It's the horticultural production facility for the city of Baltimore. So all those plantings you see along the highways and the medial strips in the city start out at Clyburn. So it's more a horticultural zone than it is a park. We have 3.5 miles of trails, and it's the only city-owned public garden and arboretum, actually, in the city of Baltimore. And a little bit about where we came from. Jesse Towson was a Quaker. His father, Isaac, was a miner. And Jesse began to study mining and went to Europe actually to study mining, came back and discovered chromite, which is really chromium. And it was the first discovery in America, has lots of uses industrially. And he built himself quite a fortune in the mid-19th century and held a monopoly on chromium. He expanded to copper in an area not far from Clyburn called Bear Hills. And you may have heard of Soldier's Delight, where there was other mines early on, no longer in mining. The Towson fortune ultimately became Allied Chemical and probably responsible for a little pollution in the harbor. But we forgave him for that. But in 1863, he purchased the Clyburn property. It was more than 200 acres at that point. It has been sectioned off and chipped away at for a number of years. And he wanted to build a house for his mother. That took place in 1876 after the Civil War. She, in the meantime, had died. And then he took a bride and he was 60 at the time. She was 19. She was a debutante in the city of Baltimore. Her name was Edith Johns, and a relative of Johns Hopkins, which is a famous name in Baltimore City. And they, Salisbury was originally built as a country home for the Tysons. And the property held the home of Jesse Tyson, his brother James Tyson, and their sister, whose name escapes me, but her house was in between the two brothers, so they could keep an eye on her, or so they claimed. And Jesse and Edith lived in Clyburn and the mansion until he died. And she remarried, no children in either marriage. And in 1943, the widower of Edith decided to sell the property to the city of Baltimore, which she did. It became a home for neglected children, which were children, I think, as a result of the war. Their parents had gone to war. In 54, it became the Baltimore Wildflower and Garden Preserve. And the Salisbury Arboretum, then the association, came into existence in the 60s, and in 1981, the city declared Salisbury an arboretum. So it's also the home to the Department of Recreation and Parks Horticulture Division, which is why we have the greenhouses and are responsible for adorning the city with what's grown at Salisbury. This is our motto. What do we do? Everything. The city is in financial issue. It's not a secret. And they managed to mow the lawn and keep up some of the repair. But we handle all the gardening and horticulture and run the volunteer program and maintain the trails. So I think that's why we say it's everything. There's some kids there from nature camp. So we partner and try to engage the community and enhance the grounds, teach about the environment. This is one of the trails into the woods. And over the past 2 years, we have begun a concentrated effort to reach into our local community, which is quite diverse. North of Northern Parkway, it's very wealthy. South of Northern Parkway, it's really one of the poorest sections in Baltimore City. There's a heavy concentration and effort to try to bring the community into Salisbury. And one of the good things, if only maybe the only good thing that COVID did, was to present to people a healthy, safe, beautiful place where they could come with their families and spend the day and be socially distanced and mask bound, but still had wide places to spend a peaceful, quiet afternoon. And our parking lots were filled every day. The Arboretum, the grounds never closed. The buildings all closed because we couldn't maintain the facilities to allow people to come inside. So it's been a really crowded outdoor activity. Why is it not going? Okay, tree care. Did I just move out of it? No. So it's hard for me to read this because the pictures are over here, but I guess I could change that. We are responsible for the tree care. We have an intense IPM. And for those who don't know what that is, it's an integrated pest management system where we hire we have an arborist and his nursery that comes 6 times a year to treat and inspect the plants and trees and other any kind of problems we might have on the grounds at Salisbury. You can see them here in the putting up a fence around a shrub there or a tree. We have we have the entire property, not the entire property, but 50 acres of the property fenced for the deer but the deer have continued to outsmart us, and it's a constant issue. It is our biggest pest on the grounds, but I guess they have to eat too. So we are responsible for creating and initiating any kinds of improvements to the property and anything that will demonstrate the care and attention that we give, not just to the trees and the plants, but to managing the stormwater. Clyburn is the mansion is at the highest point on this property, and it has a huge roof. And the amount of water that comes off that roof was causing a great problem. So we partnered with Chesapeake Bay Trust to implement a full-blown stormwater management master plan. We're about about a half of the way through that master plan. And what you're looking at here in this picture are the two rain gardens that border the mansion property. You can see stone from the mansion right here. This is the building. This is prior to their planting. They've been in for 2 years now. It's part of the slowdown to keep that water infiltrating. And we have initiated a tour for the kids, which we call the raindrop tour, when children come. And the water, we pretend one group is the raindrops that bounce off the roof and into the rain gardens, and the other ones take the roadway here down, and we meet at the rain garden that's at the foot of the driveway, just in the outside the classroom building. And of course, the kids that have to go through the easy unobstructed way do very well. The rest follow the path of the rain, through the rain gardens, through the woods, and into there, and they always lose. It's a good thing at that point. We have Tuesday trail volunteers that maintain the trails. We write grants to the State Highway Administration and the Recreational Trail Program. We've been very successful with them. This year, the trails really took a beating because they had so much traffic on them. So we are writing again for the next set of grants to try to correct the erosion and regrade them to try to stop the disintegration of the trails. One of the things that's is pretty interesting when you have an arboretum, it's probably a very good bet that a tree is going to fall on a trail and block it, at which point people then decide to make their own trail. And we have to get out there as quickly as possible and try to take the tree down. Even though Recreation and Parks has a forestry program, the forestry department is really, a division is really dedicated to street trees and to keeping the street trees safe and taken care of. So it's tough sometimes. And one of the reasons we're going to asking for a grant from State Highway is to have a resident arborist that will come in with equipment that we just can't manage and remove the tree from the trail. Education is the other half of our mission. We do adult programming and children's programming throughout the year. Everything stopped last year. And so we're just now getting back into putting our programs back on the calendar for visitors. The problems we have is that not only do we have to abide by the federal and state regulations, we also have to abide by the city regulations, which are more restrictive than the state. And then another step of restriction is the Department of Recreation and Parks. They are just beginning to open up, but it's been a tough year to try to make it happen. And we're about 2 weeks away from our big fundraiser and plant sale. And this is our second year for going virtual with it. People shop online and then drive to Clyburn on Saturday and pick up their plants. I had to laugh when I saw Gina, is it Gina? Gina's in the car putting the pack the plants in the back of it. So we've done that. It was quite successful. We were desperate. We do something on the grounds for adults called Eat, Sleep, Garden, where there's a 2 hours of lecture and then 2 hours of practicum on the grounds, led by our head gardener and assistant gardener and our very dependable and well-trained volunteers. It was quite successful. We could not do any of it last year. We're hoping to get back into it this year. We have lectures. I Loved Your Bat. We've had DNR out there that give bat walks for us, and they've been quite well attended when we actually could have that many people in the room together. So we're going to go back to that this fall, we hope, and planning for it now. And then nature camp. We are having nature camp this year. We had to cancel it last year. We have it for, this year we're having it for two-week sessions to minimize the turnover in attendance, to try to keep the spread possibility as low as possible. The kids, we're not doing before and after care this year, which I know a lot of people are disappointed, but we went from 120 children over the 4 weeks that the camp was offered to 30. So it ought to be interesting. And we're having it in the classroom, but those kids never stop and they are outside pretty much all of the day. We also run health and wellness programs. Copper Mind Fitness, we're going to try to start up the Saturday free yoga on the grounds. And we also have yoga hikes and Zen walks, which are sort of guided meditations through the property. They're very popular. But here's what we're up to next. So any of you have been to Clyburn, you'll see this, you will be familiar with this building, which is the carriage house. It was built originally as part of the property, and it burned pretty much to the ground in 1911 and was rebuilt. It's no longer, it's not considered a historic property, but it's on a historic register because the mansion and the grounds were historic. This is new compared to that. We have a 25-year lease with the city of Baltimore and with an auto renewal in 25 years. We like to say it's 50. And we're beginning to raise the money to create the Nature Education Center at Clyburn. The carriage house and the barn, as you'll see to the right of it, sits at the threshold of the highly cultivated part of the Arboretum. The formal garden is kind of in front of this. You can't see it in this illustration. This is obviously the architect's illustration. And it sits just at the threshold of cultivated into wild. And that is part of the theme and what we hope to be able to create for the children and their families and whoever else comes to the exhibit, the notion of uncovering what's hidden. And so in the interior of this, there will be a root ball that will hang from the ceiling and a canopy, a tree canopy, which is painted on the floor. And so that you can look where you normally can't see. And we probably will use a real root. We have lots of stumps at Clyburn. And the exhibits will change in elements throughout. The emphasis is on trees and the communities that trees create, and what's the difference between a tree growing in a cultivated area and the trees growing in the forest. And why are there so many seed pods for the trees in the forest? And why do the trees in the cultivated area not produce so many? We'll have an outdoor classroom. This whole right side of the illustration here it will be a garden space. It will demonstrate stormwater management. We have a lot of water coming off the formal garden area, and it headed right towards the carriage house and the barn exhibit area, and that will move the water away and through and under and into the woods. But it will be all very well documented so the kids can see it. We will have our offices. Our offices now are mostly at home, but they are in the mansion, and we share them with the city. And we'll be moving out, which will give us the ability then, not by any kind of secret, but to be transparent and to be able to schedule at our own time. Now we're dependent on making sure that the facilities are free. As I said, camp will move to the classroom building this year, so we won't have to deconstruct if there's a wedding that weekend. The city really depends on their rentals in order to subsist, and it will be a nice relief not to have to do that this year. So we have this year applied for and were granted level 2 certification in the national, ARBNet, which is the National Public Gardens Association of National Public Gardens, APGA. And that means that we met a certain level of standards. We will be applying next year probably to go to the next level, because we've hired an education director to really focus on. It's not been done with that person in a supervisory capacity. It will increase us to 5 full-time people and no other staff. That's it. We have 5 full-time people who manage the entire operation. And she'll create programming and environmental educational programs for all groups. We also are just talking and engaging, and which a very exciting aspect for us, I think, is being on a historic property, is and talking to a gentleman who's describes himself as a historical ecologist, and he looks at your landscape and goes back in time in history to try to figure out why what's growing there is growing there. And it's really, I think, going to be an exciting project. We're really afraid that we're going to lose the history of the place. And it was a farm at one time. Parts of it was a farm. And there were small little villages in that area, and before the Tysons bought the property. So that's an exciting project. The other is we've created a pilot propagation project with a grant money from the Stanley Smith Historical Trust with Baltimore Rec and Parks. And that's right on site. So that's also a very exciting thing, to try to keep those plants that are native, that have been on the property, to stay on the property and to increase their population on the property. And as a result of all of that, and looking into another master plan this year to continue to map the woodies, we have over 2,000 in our database, and that's only in the cultivated part of the Arboretum, and to revisit and rewrite the collections policy. It's I think, a very important aspect. We, the carriage house and the demolition in the forest, the clearing of the forest that we have to do to build that is going to require, by city law, mitigating those trees that are lost. And we have to replace the trees inch by inch in centimeters of the I'm blanking on the word now, for the diameter of the tree. So that's a lot of trees to replace. Caliper, thank you. I've help in the background. Anyway, the collections at Clyburn are something to come see. The magnolias are gorgeous. They're really overwhelming. We've just done a large project in the holly collection to try to clean that up and get it and revitalize it. Our Japanese maples are suffered terribly because of a viral infection, and we're losing them, and we're trying desperately to hold on to them and to replant, but we're not replanting anything right now. We have large and small conifer collections, small flowering trees, flowering shrub walk, small tree collection, and a new one, the Piedmont Connection, which will contain only trees and other plantings only from the Piedmont area. So why does it matter? Well, first of all, it's a green space in a concrete jungle. And it's a place that not a lot of people have heard of. And not a lot of people come here because they're a little concerned about that it's scary. So between our outreach programs to the local schools and just our neighbors in general, with what we call Wednesday walks, which are inviting neighbors to come in, and we'll walk them around and give them tours of the Arboretum once we are allowed to have more than 10 people in a group. And we're just sort of emphasizing that the data report supports that humans need that outdoor activity, and it has definitely been demonstrated this year with everyone being closed in. It was a safe place to visit. So come visit us. We're open Tuesday through Sunday, 8 to 8, starting May 12th. No admission charge. It's a city park. The people of Baltimore welcome you to come. And this is the picture. This is the iconic ginkgo that is part of the original plantings of the Arboretum. That, along with these enormous yews that are over here, which there's the size of a small apartment. And that's the mansion. And that's where our offices are now. So come for a visit.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Patricia.
Yes. There you go.
All right. And now we're heading back over the Eastern Shore. Get your toll money ready. And we're heading over the bridge to Salisbury with Julie and William.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having us, for asking Salisbury University to participate tonight. Thank you, Bronwyn. And we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is William Lowry. I am the senior horticulturist at Salisbury University. And I've got with me Julie Golightly. She is a horticulturist and a plant records curator for the Arboretum. And she's going to be joining us a little bit later. So we're going to go ahead and give you a brief introduction to the Arboretum at Salisbury University. And if we'll go ahead and get started, if Julie, go ahead and share your screen. Julie, are you there?
Let's see what's going on.
I don't know.
She's on mute.
Okay.
Julie, we're waiting on you to share your screen.
I am sharing it.
We're not seeing it.
Okay, let's try again.
There we go.
Are we on?
There we go.
We're
Yeah,
on.
there we go.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. All right. So we're good. So this is our logo that you see on the screen here for you. So we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll go and advance to the next screen. All right. So what is today Salisbury University? Was founded in 1925 as Salisbury Normal School with the construction of Salisbury of Holloway Hall. And so you see Holloway Hall in front of you right now. So over the next 100 years, the campus has grown to about 200 acres, of which the Arboretum consists of the entire campus. As you can see on the map, Business Route 13 divides the university into two main areas. So we've got the main academic campus, which is to the west of Business Route 13, and then you've got the athletic campus, which is to the east of Business Route 13. And then you've got the main academic campus, which is divided into 3 zones. So each 3 zones, and each with its own dedicated horticulturist who makes the decisions on the types of plantings, the types of gardens that we have, the planting designs that we have, the styles that you see in each garden, and also the look and the feel of their own zone. So even though each zone may have a different feel, all of those zones are going to flow into one another. And that's because all of our horticulturists, we collaborate with one another, we throw ideas off of each other, you know, we try to feel what each other is going for in their own zone. We don't really have a board that we have to give our designs to, even though we do have a board for our arboretum. But so as you walk the campus, you're going to feel like a unified garden experience, if you will. Okay, so the next slide. So Arbor Day of 1926 was the first recorded tree planting that we have on the new campus of Salisbury University. That year we planted 14 trees, and we have 4 of those trees still growing today. So we've got 2 Crimean lindens, which are our Maryland state champions. And we also have an American elm, which is our Wicomico state champion, or Wicomico County champion, I'm sorry. And we also have a saucer magnolia. So all of these trees were planted about 100 years ago, but they're still growing strong. In 1935, we have an arboretum that was started on the campus, a portion of which you can still see today behind some of the dormitories on campus. And then, so now we're going to fast forward to about 50 years. And that's when the transformation to the present day arboretum really started. So you see the picture that you see now is through our campus mall. At this time, we started several plant collections. We began keeping detailed plant records on the plants that we grow, including trees, shrubs, whatnot, and on the collections that we had. And we started giving detailed plant-related tours. So this act, I guess, helped us to gain recognition from what is now considered the American Public Gardens Association. We're considered an arboretum through the American Public Gardens Association at that time. In 2018, just a few years ago, we gained accreditation from ArbNet as a level 3 arboretum. ArbNet is part of the Morton Register of Arboretum, Morton Arboretum in Chicago. So it's made up of arboretums from all over the world, pretty much. And we were lucky enough, thanks to Julie's work with that, to be recognized as a level 3 arboretum with that. Over the course of the history of the university and the arboretum, the focus has moved more from landscaping and beautifying the grounds of the buildings of the newly created campus. And you see one of the past presidents, they're planting some trees, and that tree actually is a black oak, which is still there today. So we moved from that, and we've moved now to creating more of a park-like setting, including gardens conducive to student learning and also for the enjoyment of visitors. So we've got gardens for the enjoyment of visitors, and now we're starting to move into more present day, I guess, move more into seeking out more research opportunities that we can get involved in, more community learning and outreach opportunities. Obviously, the last year and a half, COVID has really put a damper on that. And I guess gaining a greater recognition among our peers in the Mid-Atlantic region and beyond, as far as, you know, ArbNet goes. Okay, so today we cultivate about 450 species of trees. And a lot of that includes the aforementioned 2 Maryland State Champion lindens that I talked about earlier. And we have about 3 or 4 other Maryland State Champions on campus. We also have 5 Wicomico County Champions on campus. And then we also have several of our collections, our tree collections, that Julie is going to talk about in just a minute. So as I said earlier, we are a level 3 arboretum through ArbNet. And we are also a Tree Campus Higher Education, and that used to be Tree Campus USA through the Arbor Day Foundation. It's now Tree Campus Higher Education to kind of delineate a little bit through college and universities and high schools, etc. So we're Tree Campus USA. We are also a plant community through the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. And the plant community, that plant stands for people loving and nurturing trees. And then in addition to all of the tree recognitions that we have, so we are an arboretum, but we are also a college campus. We are also a garden, have many gardens on campus. So in addition to the tree recognitions that we have on campus, we are we are B Campus USA. We are also a Monarch Way Station through the Monarch Watch. And we are a certified pollinator habitat through the Lower Shore Land Trust. So, being that we are a college arboretum, a college campus, the Salisbury University family is our biggest customer and our client. I mean, they're the ones that pay the bills, you know. To that end, we strive to keep the Arboretum as beautiful and engaging as we possibly can. And we have a slide coming up. There we go. And as you can see, we have a lot of especially art classes, and this is one of the art classes out last fall, painting a lot of the trees on campus. As I said, also we also have many garden areas on campus. A lot of those are used for weddings. They're used for photo shoots and other special events. And then so we have some of these garden areas, they're tucked into small courtyards. And this is one courtyard behind the main academic building one of the first slides that you saw, and this is a Japanese garden that we have behind the honors house on campus. So we have a lot of gardens like this tucked behind small small courtyards and tucked behind the buildings and whatnot. We also have a lot of gardens that take up more sizable areas. And those gardens are our main pergola garden. This is the garden behind the alumni house. A lot of weddings take place at this garden. And then we also have gardens that have a bunch of arbors and pergolas and fountains. And this is our main pergola garden, which is on the main campus. This is one of the higher photographed areas, I guess you would say. So a lot of these gardens are really intensively landscaped. From the next slide coming up. And this is another shot of the pergola garden, pretty high intensively landscaped. While others are more native and left to the forces of nature as plants move around and seed in. This is at our science building, and this is more of a strictly native garden, even though the crepe myrtles are not native. You know, we still appreciate the attributes that they give to the garden. So we also grow a lot of or pretty much all of our summer annuals that we put out on the campus. We really enjoy being creative with our display beds at our signs. That is the next slide coming up. And also as far as our outdoor our container gardens, pretty much. You know, we really enjoy being creative and doing stuff like that. You know, these are pretty high areas where a lot of graduation pictures take place. You know, a lot of different pictures take place there. We also have a large and growing sculpture collection on campus. We are not necessarily in charge of the sculpture collection, but we work with the art department in placing of the sculpture, landscaping around the sculpture, etc. So these are just some of the things that make Salisbury University and our Arboretum special. I'm going to turn it over to Julie now. She's going to talk a little bit more about some of the research projects that we're involved in, our social media accounts, I guess, and then pretty much our tree collections that we have on campus. So Julie, take it away.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. I want to make sure that our slides are working for you, that you can see, because some of them are flashing on my computer and they're going back and forth. So as long as we're on one right now of Holloway Hall, Will, can you confirm that? Okay, let's begin. Okay, good evening. I'm Julie Golightly. I'm the horticulturalist and arboretum curator at Salisbury University. Throughout the changes in the Arboretum's evolution, emphasis has always been placed on providing an educational value for the campus and the surrounding community. Providing an environment conducive for learning is our long-standing mission. Here we have two aerial shots of campus. The first top left being the original Holloway Hall, the bottom right showcases the other side of campus off of Business Route 13 with our new Academic Commons library and green roof. The mission of the Arboretum exists to provide an attractive landscape setting which is conducive to learning. Our mission calls for the diverse collection and display of the plant kingdom to promote appreciation, knowledge, and understanding of the natural environment, and it's aimed to support the academic institution and broader community. The Arboretum serves as a living laboratory and research resource used by various academic departments, both students and faculty alike. We frequently collaborate with biology department, geography and GIS, art, communication arts, and the environmental studies departments for various projects like tree measurements, different types of research, soil studies, GIS mapping, geodatabase building, publications, and guidance on native plantings. Student-led funding sources like our Green Fund initiatives, they've given us the opportunity to work with students on such projects where we have made an expansion on native plantings. And this photo here, the series of photos is the link, it's called The Link, and it's exclusive native plantings throughout, and we've been able to really enhance that from this green funding. Additionally, we've been able to update a lot of our tree tags, and here's just a sample. We're just starting to hang them and display them throughout campus. For our community, we offer and support guided tours, talks, extension agency pest walks, and other school programs, just to name a few. Last year, the Arboretum of Salisbury University agreed to participate in unique plant genome research conducted by North Dakota State University and Virginia Tech. This is the first collaboration on a national level for the Arboretum. It's being one out of 18 participating arboreta and universities across the US. This is actually cutting edge research. It's aimed to disentangle the impact that genetic variation, ancestry, and the environment have on poplar tree hybrid performance across a range of habitats. This project will hopefully include outreach with middle school students for curriculum development and data collection. So being an arboretum and plant and tree lovers, we strive to increase and diversify our holdings by acquiring newly introduced cultivars through additions to our current collections, acquiring conifers, rare and unusual trees, natives, and pretty much anything that we can get our hands on, which will grow and thrive in the different campus environments that we do have throughout the Arboretum. We currently have close to 3,100 living trees on campus throughout the Arboretum, with over 1,500 being native tree species. Our woody collections include maples, redbuds, bald cypress, crepe myrtles, magnolias, as well as dogwoods, cedars, deciduous azaleas, and witch hazels. The two main methods in which we acquire trees is through direct purchase, through our nursery sources, and through rescuing trees and shrubs on campus within our local community. So here are a few examples. During a downtown Salisbury revitalization project, we rescued several large and mature shrubs: camellia, Japanese cleyera, Harry Lauder's walking stick, also a Kusa dogwood, and the photo in the center is a linden tree that we had spaded when one of our dormitories was getting a facelift, and we were able to transplant that to another location on campus. We've received a tremendous amount of support and interest, which has really allowed us to advance the development of the Arboretum. We hope this introduction of the Arboretum of Salisbury University piques your interest. And the next time you're in town, or if you're on your way to the beach, we'd love to show you around. In the meantime, you can visit our tree map on our webpage. We try to keep it as current as we can. It's complete with locations, tree names, general information, photos. It includes search filters and our tree collections, as well as size. Our webpage also contains a woody plant database of our current woody species and those holdings. You can follow us here on Instagram. We have our website, Instagram, and Flickr accounts. And additionally, next month, be on the lookout for an app. It'll be Salisbury University Arboretum. You can download that directly from iTunes or Google Play. And once again, we thank you for having us this evening. It's nice to catch a glimpse of other arboreta here in Maryland. And I know it's going to encourage us to schedule some field trips in the next couple of months.
Thank you so much. We have visited Salisbury University, and we're going to keep on going with our higher education tour of trees and heading over to Towson. Towson Tigers, where are you in the house? We got Vanessa.
Right here, ready to share my screen.
There you go.
Good. All right. So I'm Vanessa Beecham. I'm a faculty member in the biology department here at Towson University. I'm also on the board for our Glen Arboretum. And I'm going to share my screen. See if I can get this to work. All right. People seeing PowerPoint? It's always a miracle if this works. Fantastic. Good. Okay. So give you a little bit of background on the history of the Glen Arboretum and then talk a little bit about our holdings that we have today. So the beginning of the Glen Arboretum really started with the beginning of the Maryland State Normal School. So these are pictures from before the land was cleared to build the school. So this is in about 1913. And the Arboretum was developed out of a chunk of land of the original 88-acre plot. And the area that was to become the Arboretum originally was described as a maze of underbrush grown over with poison ivy and honeysuckle. And it was an area that was basically just a depression in the farmland, had a little stream going through, and it couldn't really have anything built on it. It was unsuitable for building, so it ended up being kind of a de facto nature reserve. So this is kind of what it looked like in the beginning. This was all farmland that had been sold to the state for the normal school. Here's where we are today. So the outline is the original 88 acres of Towson University, and the Glen is this southern portion here where you can still see that it's forested. And you can see that university's expanded quite a bit around that now. The early years of the Glen Arboretum have a lot to do with the development of the normal school and the model elementary school that was on site. And so Lyda Lee Tall was the principal and then later the president of the normal school. And Stella Brown was the principal of the model elementary school. And they were really big into outdoor education. They really wanted to get students outside learning, experiencing things. And so they were really invested in this idea of establishing this outdoor education area. And so in 1935, they applied for funding through the Works Progress Administration. They received the funding in 1936. This became WPA project number 319. And the goal was to preserve an area for wild plants and animals, to make it a living laboratory for elementary to college students, and be a model for future projects. So the original Arboretum was 25 acres. Their funding of $74,000 purchased 500 trees and funded the installation of flagstone walks, tables, benches, outdoor kitchens, pavilions, things like that. So here you can see the Arboretum kind of under construction. So this is what it looked like in the 1930s. Here is construction of our pavilion. So this again, Works Progress Administration built pavilion. This still exists on campus. Here's our botany pond that was fed by a spring that was on campus. So this was a pond area that was put in as part of that as well. Here's what the finished project looks like. So here's that pavilion I showed you here. The botany pond is down here. We have a little caretaker's cottage and lots of pathways, flagstone pathways and things like that. And a lot of these structures still exist today in the Arboretum. So the Arboretum after the 30s became a real focal point on campus. It was a focal point for social and environmental activities. We had a theater group called the Glen Players that oftentimes hosted plays down in the Glen. This is a group of faculty eating at one of the large stone tables just outside its pavilion, the pavilion here. And you can see school children, again, using the Glen Arboretum as part of their outdoor activities. So this is really an integral part of campus from the 1940s to about the 1960s. A little more history here. So here's an aerial view of the campus. In 1956, this is a USGS aerial photo. You can see Stevens Hall, that was the first building on campus, some of the older dorms. And the Glen Arboretum is this outline here down again on the southern edge. This line going here is the railroad trestle. So this is the Mon-Pa Railroad. If people are familiar with geography in Towson, the two big bridge abutments that are over by the library, that was part of this line, okay? This is a picture taken from inside the Glen. This bridge is still there today, and you can see the underpinnings of that railroad trestle here. So that in fact went through campus. So kind of a little neat bit of history there. Between the 1960s and the 1990s, unfortunately, not a lot happened in the Glen. It was basically a period of neglect. This is that botany pond I showed you before, filled with trees and pretty much eroded and silted in. So not much happened. Fast forward to the 1990s, we had a few faculty members that again became very invested in the Glen and said, we really want to revive this to be more of an outdoor classroom. And so Don Windler was one of the people who really kind of spearheaded this movement. Jim Hall in the biology department was part of this as well. A couple important things happened. In the late 1990s, we had a restoration of the stream that goes through the Glen. So this is a tributary to Towson Run that eventually empties out into Lake Roland. There was funding for a Glen master plan as part of Towson University to kind of plan for the future here. We had the establishment of the Glen Arboretum Endowment, and the university built a challenge course. This is Doc, our mascot, and he's trying to navigate one of the parts of our challenge course here. So bringing a lot of the students down into what they thought was kind of an overgrown, scary, kind of unusable area now. We're getting a lot more students in there. So now in its modern reincarnation, the Glen Arboretum really has three main missions. We want to establish and maintain specimens of plants, principally trees and shrubs that are native to Maryland. So the focus here is on native species. We want to provide an educational experience for the university community and the community at large. So the Glen Arboretum is open from dawn till dusk. People are welcome to walk through and see what we have. We also want to serve as an outreach and community engagement tool of the university. So we're trying to do things that both promote faculty research, student learning, student engagement with the Glen Arboretum. And that's been our focus for about the last 10 years or so. Our current holdings is we're down to about 10 acres. We've lost acreage over time due to construction on campus. We have 105 of the approximately 120 tree species native to Maryland. We've basically got everything you can commercially purchase. So we're trying to round out our collection with some of the more rare species. From 2019 to 2021, we've been named a Tree Campus USA by the Arbor Day Foundation to really recognize the commitment to promoting healthy trees and engaging students and staff in this spirit of conservation. We've been working on our educational signage. We've been working on putting signs on individual trees. We have informational signs on 75 species of plants. And if you go up to one of these informational signs and use your phone to scan this QR code, it takes you to a website that has more information about this tree. So that's all linked together. We've just got that set up. And we now have 6, we call them issue education signs that are on the grounds of the Arboretum. The 2 most recent ones are on watersheds and invasive species. So here's just an example of our invasive species sign, kind of calling out some of the things that unfortunately you'll find quite a bit of in the Glen Arboretum that we're working to eradicate. And then our watershed sign explains the importance of watersheds and the Arboretum kind of on the greater landscape. So these are 2 of our newest signs that just went in within the last year or so. We also have big trees on campus. We have 13 that have made the big tree list. I forget how many state and county champions we have. There's a few. In the Glen proper, that's this area right here, we only have 2. We have a southern red oak that made the list, and we have an umbrella magnolia that made the list. The rest are scattered around other places on campus, and some of them are associated with the more historic buildings on campus. So we have a honey locust here that's associated with some of the older dorms. Down here in what we call our athletic precinct, our Auburn house, which is part of our alumni outreach, there's quite a few large old trees on that part of campus as well. We've been focused for the last 10 years really on restoration. So that's been the main The main goal of the current incarnation of the Glen Arboretum is to restore the area and really make it kind of a showcase for the campus. Our funding for this has come mainly from the Fisher College of Science and Mathematics and the Glen Arboretum Endowment. We've been fortunate enough to receive money through the BGE Green Grant through the last about 7 years or so. And then just recently we got funding through the Chesapeake Bay Trust, their Outreach and Restoration Grant Program. We were really excited to get these funds. We had really big plans for this, and then COVID shut us down halfway through. So it's really difficult to do programs on a campus when the campus is closed. Your whole workforce just goes away. Here you see some of our crew. These are students who are funded through our BGE Green Grant to do invasive species removal and plantings on campus. They're addressing some of the erosion issues that we have. They're planting some path rush in this netting here to try and kind of hold the soil here. We've been working really hard on our vegetation management and trying to figure out kind of the best path forward to restore a lot of the habitat. This is what a lot of areas of the Glen still look like. We're not very far away from the maze of underbrush grown over with poison ivy and honeysuckle that we had in 1915. So we started out trying to restore these areas, like I said, with students that were funded through the BGE Green Grant. What we found is a lot of this is impenetrable. It's very prickly. And there are ground nesting bees underneath it, which none are conducive to student labor. Nobody wants to do this. So we thought about how we might tackle this a different way. And we came up with kind of a three-pronged strategy. Prong one is goats. So we learned that when you bring goats to campus, they're really, really popular. We also learned that goats are great browsers and they do a really good job on things like the English ivy that we're trying to eradicate. And as long as we're really careful about protecting our trees with shelters, we can pretty much get them to eat what we want them to eat. So they take our impenetrable wall of vegetation and basically open it up so that our students can get at the things that are still left on the ground and work on removing the ivy. So we've been doing that. So here's our students. This is our crew removing ivy from the ground here. We've also started doing an annual garlic mustard pull where we recruit clubs and offer them money for the clubs that can pull out the most biomass of garlic mustard. So on an annual basis, we've been hauling probably 20-ish garbage bags of garlic mustard out of the Glen. We thought that this past year we were going to pretty much get to the point where we got most of it. And then, of course, we had no students and it had a little bit of a resurgence. So we're going to work on that, get the rest of it out. So once we've gotten the goats through, and then once we've gotten the students through, we come in behind that and do a whole lot of revegetation. So that's where planting a lot of these native trees and shrubs comes in. We're starting to focus more on getting more ground cover in for erosion control as we get the ivy out. We have huge problems with deer as well. We have no fence, unlike Silver, they just walk right through. Cruise in, we'll be walking to class and there'll literally be a deer just a couple feet away. He knows there's no threat, munching on all our trees. So that's something that we need to deal with. So more of our revegetation here. And so that's going to be an ongoing project. We do have research that goes on in the Glen. This first is a project looking at runoff from copper roofs and the effect of the metal on the environment. And then the ability of things like rain gardens and bioswales to clean the metal out of the water. And what they found was that putting in these planter boxes, these rain garden boxes, basically took about 80 to 99% of the copper out of the water, showing that when these are used in combination, copper roofs can be a really safe alternative for roofing material here and not degrade the water supply. We also have our entomologist on campus, John Lapola, had an undergrad student who did a bee survey. And what she found over 1,000 bees on campus and was able to actually establish 19 new county records. So species that had never been recorded as being observed in Baltimore County, we know that they're there through research that was done in the Glen. We've had other things happen on campus. We have a group from the arts that wants to start doing plays in the Glen again. Groups from history come and look at the WPA structures that have been built. We have other groups that work on the biogeochemistry of the stream that runs through. We had an unusual request a couple years ago. Forensic chemistry wanted to stake a pig head out in the Glen so that they could observe it decompose. We said yes, fantastic. So we've gotten all sorts of really cool research out of the Glen here. So it's a small area, but I think it's a very important area for our campus. The Glen is also now the gateway for our new science building. So anybody who lives in Towson, driving down the York Road, you've seen this getting built over the last couple of years. It's finally done. I'm talking to you from inside it now in my new office. Behind the science building, we have an outdoor classroom here, and it opens out right into the Glen. So we're really enjoying this new connection between the science building and the Glen, and getting more of that kind of outdoor experiential education going here. So that's something exciting to look forward to. I had people ask on the chat, how do we visit? Here's our little map of campus. This is York Road with our new science facility that's now open. If you want to come visit the Glen, and it's during normal business hours, you can cruise through the science building too. There's a main trail that goes through the middle of the Glen between the Union and the science building, and then some smaller side trails here. You can park in the Glen garage or the university garage and pay the visitor parking, or you can park along Cross Campus Drive. On the weekends, the parking is free. So if you want to come visit us on the weekend, you can park in one of the garages for free and walk around the Glen and get a sense of what we have there. So that's the Glen Arboretum at Towson University. Really small. We're still very much a work in progress, but I think we're a really important part of the campus, and we're really excited to see where we can go from here. And that's all I've got.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vanessa.
You're very welcome. All right.
Just stop the share.
Stop my
We're seeing
share.
all types and shapes and sizes of arboretums, and we're gonna close out tonight. You're still sharing?
I think I stopped, didn't I?
Oh, I just have a spotlight on you, sorry. Okay. And we're closing out with the University of Maryland, down south in College Park, and with Meg. Meg, thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. A special thank you to my mother-in-law who's joining us from Portland, Oregon, and my parents who are joining us from St. Paul, Minnesota. So without further ado, the University of Maryland, we were founded as the Agricultural College in 1856, and with the Morrill Act, we became a land-grant university in 1862. I will not go through the entire history from then until now. I'm just going to hit the high points, such as in 2008, when we were designated as an arboretum and botanical gardens. We have been a Tree Campus USA. Since then, it has been renamed Tree Campus Higher Education, designation that we received again this year. We received recognition as a level 4 ArbNet accredited arboretum by the Morton Arboretum in 2019. And we also won the Green Star Grand Award for an urban campus from the Professional Grounds Management Society in 2019. So in short, everyone who lives and works at the University of Maryland does so at a world-class arboretum. Here is Testudo. Testudo greets our visitors in 7 different locations on campus. It's sort of a scavenger hunt to find all 7 of these bronze statues. I am proud to say I have visited all of them, which is remarkable because one of them is in the end zone of the football field in the stadium. So I'm very proud of that. We host over 40,000 students and close to 100,000 visitors, faculty, and staff each year. Our entire campus, all 1,250 acres, is an arboretum and botanical garden. And this particular testudo, you can see, is in the Van Munching courtyard with some beautiful canna lilies behind it. And that is where the Smith School of Business is located. The next stop on our tour is Taws Plaza. It's one of the main gathering places in the heart of campus. And it is host to one of my favorite events that unfortunately was temporarily shut down during COVID. That is our farmers market that our dining services runs from April to November. Also, tons of people have meetings out here, classes meet out here, outdoor festivals, and this has become a very important classroom space during COVID times when people are trying to be outdoors more. We also have a habit of turning our parking lots into green spaces, a habit I am very proud of here at the University of Maryland. This is Mayor Mall. The Testudo statue is on the other side of this building over here. This was a whole big parking lot that was converted into multi-use green space. Again, festivals, classes, tours, things like that. And then this is also a major connecting walkway through campus. I will say someone did try and drive their car down these steps and got stuck. I won't go into it, but the student at the time told the police officer, "I thought I could make it." Okay, moving on. This is Hornbeck Plaza. This is another sort of plaza in the heart of campus, right in the middle of campus, right next to our student union, right along Campus Drive. This is surrounded by golden rain trees, and then also, yes, I know that we shouldn't have them surrounded by golden rain trees. We'll be replacing them. But these beautiful trees, this is the fall foliage on honey locust, and nice little fountain here. Again, outdoor classes, tons and tons of people, gathering space, demonstrations, festivals, wonderful place to be. And also recently in 2015, a portion of this was created to a commemorative garden dedicated to Frederick Douglass, a Maryland native. He said, "I'm an Eastern Shoreman with all that name implies. Eastern Shore corn and Eastern Shore pork gave me my muscle. I love Maryland and the Eastern Shore, and we are proud to honor this native son here on our campus with an award-winning design." An alumnus of the university, Jim Henson. Here he's seen in conversation with his most famous friend, Kermit. During COVID, they demonstrated proper mask wearing procedures. And also, I have noticed from time to time during finals, they're sharing a beer. You can kind of stick a beer in Jim's hand. We try and clean that up as fast as possible. This is the Benjamin Building, West Courtyard. This is one of the more hidden areas of campus. We have some of the Lord Baltimore hibiscus, Pretoria canna, some knockout roses. We do have rose rosette on campus, and so some of those roses in different areas are being replaced with other plantings. Switchgrass, salvia, and this is a great area to have volunteer groups as well. There's a lot of nutsedge, there's a lot of weeds in here, and you really got to get the students in there and they can just like hand weed it in about an hour. It's a great space, and a space that a lot of people don't know about. We have added a number of pots on campus. We were one of the hosts for the 2019 American Public Garden Association Conference, and so we wanted to zhuzh up the place for the tours. So we added some pots. These were designed by one of our horticulturists, Luis Alfonso, who is an expert in tropical plants. And as you can imagine, they were a huge hit. And we put them in areas, patio areas where they needed a little color, a little interest. But as you know, they're also a great way to provide security barriers without just the plain bollards. So big hit all around campus. Then COVID hit and we didn't have the staff to keep watering them, so we're sort of revamping and replanning that. This is our oldest building on campus. This is Rossborough Inn. It was completed in 1812. And this particular building was built along Route 1, which was the main thoroughfare from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. And this was built a day's horseback ride from the U.S. Capitol building. That's why it was built there as a tavern. And the Marquis Lafayette actually stayed here on his return tour of the United States in 1824. I am a huge history nerd. I get a little chill every time I go inside that building. I think it's really, really cool. This is our old M circle. This is probably the image that people are most familiar with in regards to the campus. We planted out with yellow pansies. We planted out with Sorry, it's late at night and the name is escaping me, so I'm just going to pretend like I remember the name of that plant. Some pretty red flowers is what we planted out with, but we've actually switched to a new M circle. So the image on the left is the old M circle. You can see that it's in the middle of a couple lanes of traffic, and we have moved it to what is right here. This is where the current M circle is, and that is because we have the purple line coming through campus. There has been a lot of construction. There's been a lot of traffic pattern changes. There are a lot of orange cones up right now. But in the end, it's going to create a more sustainable way to get to campus. Of course, it's a huge headache right now. Change is hard. But I think that it will open up campus and allow people to get here without cars. As I mentioned, my parents are in Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota, and they got a light rail system as well. And I returned there a few years ago. It goes right through the University of Minnesota campus, and I asked them their honest opinion on it. And they said that it was a great improvement for the university. And I really think that that will be an improvement for our university as well. This is a nice shot of the two different M's, the old M in the background, the new one being built. Since this picture was taken, we have installed the mature willow oak trees that will frame the back of it just like the old M circle. And the old M circle has been converted to our 4 Maryland procedure reminders, COVID reminders to wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands, and stay home if you're sick. This is one of my favorite gardens on campus. This is the Garden of Reflection and Remembrance. It was built in response to the September 11th terrorist attacks. It was realized that we needed a spot on campus for contemplation. So in 2011, this garden was dedicated. And it's a solace for those needing space for their thoughts. The endowment for this garden also included funding for a student intern to care for the garden, one who is studying horticulture or urban forestry or something like that. And this garden is most heavily trafficked during finals times. You will definitely see students out here taking a break from being inside studying. There is also a labyrinth, and among the many collaborative programs we have at the Arboretum, there are specific meditative times to walk the labyrinth in collaboration with the University Health Center. This is our newest building on campus. This is the Brendan Reed Center for Computer Science and Engineering. It integrates technology and nature with these large glass windows, and also all of this landscaping around here. This is all stormwater management. The building is actually located on a 100-year floodplain, which is why there is this neat overhang here. There's a patio underneath here, and it is a really cool spot to be when it's raining. This is all stormwater management all along here. And then this is kind of my garden. This is next to my office. This is the one where I have the most volunteers and interns working. This is the H. Edward Riley Azalea and Rhododendron Garden. It's a shade garden with mature trees, mature oak trees. And it also incorporates this piece of art right here called Paint Branch a Dwelling, which is actually a solitary bee wall. So this is all made out of cob. And when you come visit us, you can see that there are all sorts of little holes because the bees do actually make their homes in there. And then over to the right is a pollinator garden to support those bees as well. We do outreach on campus and we do outreach off campus. We partner with universities like American University to offer training days. This is Luis. He is one of our horticulturists, the tropical plant specialist. He studied with Roberto Brule Marx in Venezuela before he came to the United States. And being fluent in Spanish, he's passing on his skills to other landscaping professionals in the area. We also do a ton of volunteer events with the students on campus. They are very interested and very involved in what we do. Here, our master arborist is explaining emerald ash borer to our students. This pile of wood chips is from a tree that we had to take down that was infected. We try and use the wood chips here on campus because we're under quarantine. We can't, send the wood chips anywhere. And it just makes more sense to use them on campus. One note, I am an arborist. Richard is a master arborist. There are fewer than 800 of them in the world. So I'm very proud that we have one here at our university. Our student volunteers are helping plant a stormwater area with plants to help channel the outflow water here. Our stormwater is governed by Maryland's Separate Storm Sewer System Permit, also called the MS4. We have a stormwater manager on campus who does not actually have any staff to help him with management of the stormwater facilities. So we rely heavily on volunteers. Student volunteers are incredibly active and between 4,000 and 6,000 volunteer hours annually. And most of them work with me. They work across campus in a lot of different areas. This is one of our green roofs. We're actually on the 3rd floor looking out at H.J. Patterson Hall. And I wanted to point out this green roof because it's one of the only green roofs that you can actually see on campus. There is these beautiful large windows that you can look out. This is sedum and chives that are blooming. Most of the green roofs, are up on top of the roof and you can't see them. This was specifically designed to be a teaching area. I mentioned that we have close to 100,000 visitors each year. We have most of them on Maryland Day, which did not occur in 2019 or 2020, but it may occur in 2020. Oh wait, no, it was virtual in 2021. Sorry, it's the last weekend in April. So maybe 2022. But it is a huge open house here on campus. All of these tents, all the departments have different demonstrations and giveaways and kids activities. And so it is a wonderful time for our campus. It is a stressful time for our staff because we have Maryland Day and then 2 weeks later we have commencement. So we get ready for Maryland Day. The campus is, let's say, well used, and then we try and make things pristine again, and then we have commencement, and then we have summer break, so we can maybe kind of catch our breaths. I'm not sure. I get asked a lot as a horticulturist and arborist, so what do you do in winter? Because people think that we can just take the winter off. Oh no, actually our department takes care of all of the snow on campus. So when the winter a SEMA structure reporting model, and our staff are split into teams.
Meg, your volume's gone out.
Oh no!
You're better now.
Okay, great. Well, who wants to talk about snow anyways? But anyways, we work 12-hour shifts, keeping the campus safe for all of our visitors. I'm gonna end with a real high point in my job here at the university and for the university in general. This tract of land is the community learning garden, and it was largely unused until a grant from the university's sustainability fund and matching funds from facilities management created the community learning garden. It has demonstration teaching beds and areas for classes to gather up top with an orchard and sustainable stormwater sourced irrigation in these rain barrels, and also plots for community gardeners here. However, in March of 2019, we made a decision to plant out the entire garden for the campus pantry. Before the pandemic, about 70 people a week were accessing our campus pantry. About 1 in 25 people of our community were food insecure. The number of people accessing our community pantry during the pandemic has risen to at least 400 people a week. So we planted out the entire garden. We donated 100% of the produce. I will note that this was before the mask mandate came into effect. We are still social distancing now. So I'm just incredibly proud of our staff and interns who really pulled together. We were able to donate over 1,200 pounds of produce to the garden with a dollar value of around $12,000. And we have decided to continue that mission this year as well. And we have always had a partnership with the Campus Pantry and has donated some of our produce. But being able to have a tract of land to grow fresh produce for people who need it gave purpose to my own job and also to the people who were helping us with the garden. So with that, I'm going to leave it on this slide here, a beautiful shot of McKeldin Mall. Contact information is up there at the top. Please do come visit us. We hopefully will be doing tours and programming again in the near future. And if anyone would like a tour, please just drop us a line.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Meg. And do you want to unshare? We can all come back together.
I don't know how to unshare. Oh, stop share. I got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me get mine. What did I do here? All right. That was wonderful. We can see how different and how similar arboretums are. And I'm trying to get the spotlight off of Meg. Just a second. I don't know what's going on. Do we have any questions? For folks? You can raise your hand. You can put it in the chat box. I will recognize you for any of our people. I'm blown away by just the diversity and how when I think of an arboretum, I just think you're walking around and looking at some trees, but there's so much more than that, from a community garden to research on chemistry and everything in between. So any questions? Bob Poor says, I suggest you name all the other arboreta in Maryland. Do we have any other arboretums in Maryland? Does anybody want to add that? Is there a list?
There's about a dozen of them.
Okay, Bob, thanks. You want to share those with us?
Well, I wasn't planning on it, but
oh, okay.
Here you go. I'll name some. And these are, of course, under ArbNet. Is that what it is? It's their list. There's sort of a commercial one called the William F. Bolger Center in Potomac, Maryland. It's actually a conference center, but it is a recognized arboretum in Maryland. Then let me just scroll through my list here. There's Virginia Decker Arboretum in Chestertown. That's not a certified one. University of Maryland's the biggest at level 4. There is the Helen Taw's Garden is accredited as an arboretum in Annapolis, and that's where the Senate office buildings. You have to go through a lobby evidently to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the St. Mary's Arboretum, St. Mary's Association Arboretum in St. Mary's City.
Yep.
Then you did Salisbury. There's the Mount Washington Arboretum. They're in Baltimore.
It looks like Vanessa put the arbnet.org link up there, so we can take a look at that. And then we had a question from Liz. What's the difference between arboretum and traditional museums? Jenna put arboretum have a living collection. A
Oh,
living
wait,
collection.
Loyola is also an arboretum university.
Any other questions for our folks? Some things that I took away from this, goats are cool. I have some myself, so I know that firsthand. I see that if we want that, a lot of things that connect arboretums are goats, student labor, volunteers, and grants. So those were kind of the themes that were running through all of the different arboretums. I think that they were wonderful presentations that showed the differences and the similarities. And I do hope, Liz wants to know, could you speak to how that changes the museum aspect? Liz, can you make elaborate on your question a little bit more?
Am I coming through okay?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying, I'd like to know more about like how arboretums distinguish themselves from greenhouses, from other types of botanical collections, from more traditional, maybe preserved plant collections. Like is there anything meaningful about the fact that it is a living collection from the presenter's experiences?
Jenna, go ahead.
Sure. Well, just caring for a living collection, just the caretaking is different, the change of it, things that are out of our control. So it's, I've just always thought of it as, the difference really being is that you're working with a living collection, that you're trying to sustain and present. So, in our case, we do not collect and display like a typical arboreta. We do, our display is more in a natural habitat. And then we do have, like I mentioned, some cultivated areas. But I think living is the key word probably there. Is that helpful?
Any of the other presenters want to take that question?
Well, I agree with what you said. It's the difference between stasis and change, and it's constantly changing. It's all basically alive, but it's never the same thing 2 days in a row. And I think that's one of the beauties of being able to go to work in a place like that, especially at this time of year, when every day it's different. And it's not, we have outside my office in the mansion, we have an herbarium, which is a collection of plants and that existed at some point, were found on the grounds at Clyburn. And they are in constant change too, because they weren't well protected to begin with. So they are sort of in a deteriorating state, which is change as well, but they're not alive anymore. If you had to describe something as performing all the functions that plant life does. So.
And we had a question from Betsy about the difference between an arboretum and botanic garden, and Vanessa put an arboretum has major focus on woody plants. But it was interesting to see that your arboretums, most of them incorporated a variety of trees as well as different planted areas as well. All right, any other questions? I don't think that there's one definition for an arboretum now that I've heard all of these presentations. An arboretum can be just about anything. Living, so it's wonderful. Bob, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I think trying to distinguish between a garden, an arboretum, whatever, all these various terms, I think the right answer is an emphasis on woodies, because if you're going to survive as any type of a botanical thing, you've got to be able to attract customers in a sense. You've got to have people come and visit you. You need support in all sorts of ways. So you've got to have a little of everything to attract people. You see that at Brookside. You see that at Longwood Gardens. Neither one of them, by the way, is listed as an arboretum for some reason, but there are an awful lot of trees, huge variety there. But people, public likes to see everything. It's just like what your backdrop there of all that stuff behind you. In other words, it's a huge variety.
Well, and I know that Adkins focuses on natives, but traditionally with arboretums, people would go and travel and bring them back to their state houses and plant all the different varieties, kind of like a cabinet of curiosities in the Victorian ages, where you'd go collect and have people come over and look at these very unusual plant specimens. And I wonder, I see that there seems to be more of a leaning towards the native. Is that because of the non-native invasive qualities of plants coming over, or Arboretum still trying to be more of a museum in terms of collections from all over the world in one area?
Well, there are not a lot of arboretums that can actually afford to do that. Take the trip to outer Mongolia, for some rare ice plant or something. So it's, you kind of do what you do. Adkins is unusual in that regard, is that, they do maintain, and that will become that. Well, I don't know that, there's such a place for that. There's such a need for that, because it teaches sustainability and accommodating climate issues and all of that, where the rest of us who go get things from the Himalayas and try to keep those alive in a foreign environment for the plant. So it's bizarre. It's also a credit to the adaptability of plant life, but that's another story for another time.
Well, I just didn't know, is there a trend that things are, that Arboretum are moving towards more native than non-native? Do you see that?
I think it just depends on the mission of the institution and kind of what they were founded for, what they're doing.
Yeah, the mission.
All right. Well, any other questions on this Arbor Day Eve for our arboretums? And I think that there could be a lot of cross-pollination between the five of y'all. That's some great ideas. And I would like, if I was in an arboretum, I'd like to take one of that idea and put it in mine and all of that kind of stuff. So there's wonderful programs going on at all of the arboretums, wonderful things to see and experience. I can't wait to get out there and check them all off my list. And like we talked about earlier before we started, we need to come up with a Maryland, it's like not the ice cream trail, the Maryland Arboretum Trail. So you can go and get a passport and get your sticker when you go to see all the different arboretums. And add in that the Natural History Society of Maryland, come visit us when we get open in Overley. Thank you to all the presenters. Thank you for all of our presenters. That was wonderful. And everyone stay safe, stay curious, and stay outside. Go to see your arboretums. Go visit them.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bronwyn.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bronwyn.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good
Thank you.
night. Happy Arbor Day.